Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by. Today I'm going to try to do a lot in a short period of time, so it's going to be a little bit like a roller coaster, but hang on with me and we'll work our way through it. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that are changing in Panama's economy and also the nation as a whole over the next 3 years. That people would say, well, what difference does that make to me? And I say to you with great seriousness that I have lived in nations where the economy has been difficult, where things have been going downhill, and those include some of the more important nations, the self-described advanced nations, and the attitude of people in nations going through difficult financial times is not pleasant, and you really don't want to be there if you can avoid it. But if you're in a nation like Panama, which has been coming out of a period of dramatic growth and is now entering into a continuation of that growth, you're surrounded by people who are really excited about the future, and they see a future for themselves and their children and their families. So I think it makes a big difference, and I think people realize that if they've experienced both, as I have done. Anyhow, let's move right on to it. 2016, it looks like our growth rate for the economy is going to be around 5%. That's 1% lower than had been hoped for in the beginning of the year. That comes as a result of a slowdown in the global economy as a whole, so we're not the only ones to be affected by that. And in addition, our current administration saw fit to slow down the expenditure of funds to get the deficit under control and to see to it that the debt burden in the society was as low as possible. They have succeeded in doing that, so things are beginning to pick up again. The expansion of the canal, it being opened, what have you, is beneficial too. But I'll tell you this, if we had as low a debt burden in the United States or in European nations, and if we had as low deficits and so forth in our budgets, they'd be rioting in the streets because you folks spend an awful lot of money that you don't have. And Panama's been hurt by that in the past. So many of the developing nations have been through that. They know that. So the levels that they find acceptable here are dramatically lower than anything you'd expect in your own nation, in probably 95% of the nations that people who watch these videos come from. So let's give Panama a little credit for that. They certainly have earned it. Now in 2017, we anticipate things improving and moving up. Why? Because so many of the projects that were slowed down in the last administration are now back underway and moving right along. They are big projects. There's a canal bridge, a fourth bridge over the canal, $1 billion project. This should be it's in place, the money's in place. Now we have to get to the actual construction. Line 2 of the metro is under construction, about 30% complete now, and that's going to be rolling right straight through the year. That employs thousands of people. We've got the convention center that is growing and being constructed now too. That has been delayed in the past. This is a really big item because it allows us to compete with Las Vegas, Miami, and other major convention centers. We simply didn't have a center large enough to hold some of these major conferences and conventions. Now we will be competitive. That's the second terminal at Tocumen International Airport, which will more than double the capacity of the airport. It's going to be a beautiful, huge terminal, and we're really looking forward to seeing it completed. It will allow in the widest of wide bodies so that we can begin to have direct flights from Asia, which is another very important point. I hope to have that. Should be done in 2018. Well, that's 2018. 2017, we'll see the continuation of that construction. We have a liquid natural gas, LNG project, nearly $1 billion. Out on the Caribbean side, this is meant to create energy for use here in Panama, but also for sale to neighboring nations. And it's also going to be a storage center for LNG. This all comes as a result of the expansion of the canal, which now allows these large LNG shippers to move through the canal, which they couldn't do before. And since they're there, Panama, this is very, very Panamanian, is going to take advantage of that and use that, set up this center, this storage area, and this thermal power plant and so forth to make use of what's going through the canal anyhow. very bright thing to do. In fact, the canal has a number of projects that's underway that are going to have a dramatic impact on the canal's profitability and its increased importance continued importance in the Panamanian economy. There is also going to be another port added to our many 6, 7 ports that we have now, container ports. On the Pacific side, that should be moving along in 2017. So we have a terrific amount underway. There's the copper mine that's been it's going to be one of the largest in the world when it's completed. That's a $6 billion project, which is more money than was spent on the expansion of the canal. That's moving along quite well, and in an area that's very underpopulated and isolated, and the economic impact there is welcome. And so far, so good in terms of the environment, and it is watched, and it is an issue that people are concerned about. But it's moving right along and employs thousands of people there, and it will continue to do that in 2017. We have all that going. My area of the country that I love is the eastern Panama, which is east of the airport, in the opposite direction from Panama City. We have a lot of activity going there too. I've been waiting for it for a while, and now it's finally underway. We're a very major institution for teaching people technical trades and many of the more modern technical trades, with 5,000 students is expected. That's will be under construction very shortly in that part of the country. We have another free trade zone. We have the second largest in the world is in Colón, on the Caribbean side of the nation. The one being built here is in addition to many smaller free trade zones, very small zones for specific reasons elsewhere in the country. But in this case, it's a $230 million project, and it will have 6,000 employees. That's a good-sized free trade zone. That's quite a ways beyond the airport toward the east. We have 2 projects, huge projects, for development of residential and commercial areas around the airport itself, which will have its own metro station from Line 2, I might add. These are immense projects, and of course they have to go through a lot of environmental impact studies, and of course they're going to be up for discussion, and there's always going to be different viewpoints. So those are not yet underway, but the area in that around there is so obviously useful that whether it's one of them or both of them or something else, it's going to be massive. One of those projects is listed at $4.2 billion. This is about 80% of the expansion of the Panama Canal. So we're talking major league projects here. We're into billion-dollar projects as well as those in hundreds of millions of dollars. This is pretty impressive. And it's long overdue in that area. So now the investment money is starting to move east instead of only to the west. And this is very exciting for us and for me because this is the area that we're most interested in. It's one thing that's been keeping me very busy over the last few weeks because it's just a very exciting time. Those, however, the global cities and so forth, that is these big $4.2 billion project, what have you, these special cities are yet to be approved. Everything else I'm talking about, though, is funded and it's underway, and it's, as they say in English, baked in the cake. It's happening. So 2017 is going to be a year of a great deal of construction and building. In addition, there's much more going on, and not just in this part of the country, but all across the country. You're going to be seeing a lot of construction work. It's been true for the last decade. It's going to be true for a few more years. 2018, we'll have finished a lot of things. The Line 2 of the Metro is expected to be done by December. These things slide. If it moves in a little into early 2019, I'm not going to be surprised. But hopefully, since they're 30% done already, I think they have a good shot at having it done in 2018, earlier than expected, and that's fine with me. The convention center will be finished, and we'll start being able to take care of some of these conferences and conventions. The hotels here in Panama who've been waiting for this are going to be very happy because they're going to be able to fill their rooms a lot more easily with those conventions. The second Tocumen terminal is will now be operating. We'll be having many more flights coming in, and very possibly we'll begin the bidding process, or we may actually begin the construction for the third terminal at the airport. The airport's expansion is just almost unbelievable, except that it's real and it's going on, and it has to. So for the next into next year, into 2018, it's going to get tight there at the airport. Lots and lots of flights coming in. But they're handling it so far pretty well, and I'm impressed by that, because it's not easy to take substantial increases at an airport when you know you need a new terminal, and yet it's behind schedule, so it's not quite ready yet. You need it now. They've worked it out. They've done, I think, a very good job for it. But I know some people will arrive and have to stand in line at immigration longer because so many other flights will have arrived. It's a small price to pay in the country's development, but we don't want you to have to pay it. So I know that a good deal of effort's gone into that. It's going to be, line, did I mention Line 3? Yeah. Line 3 of the Metro should, I think, be under construction by that stage of the game too, and that's going to be a massive one. So all of that is going in. Then we come to 2019. This is going to be a very special year for Panama in many respects. After all this building and all this construction, and more that will be underway even then. Other than the copper mine opening, for example, really the things that are going to really rivet people's attentions. One of them will be the celebration of the 500th anniversary of the founding of Panama City as a city, the first European-style city to be created on the entire Pacific coast of the Western Hemisphere from Alaska to Chile. That's going to be one big fireworks display. We love fireworks here, and oh boy, I think that one's going to be super. And it's going to be year-long. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's also an election year. In Panama, there's only one election every 5 years. Everybody who gets elected is up for election in that one day. So that's, some nations you have seemingly continual elections at state level or provincial level or whatever, as well as cities and so forth. Here it's one day, every 5 years, everything. And that will, of course, be a very active period of time too. And then in the middle of the year, an event that people aren't really thinking about right now, and day-to-day talk, because we know it's happening, but we're not thinking that much about it. And that is World Youth Day. Now, you've probably never heard of that, but it is a celebration within the Roman Catholic Church. It's done every 3 or 4 years in a different part of the world. It's directed toward teenagers, toward young adults, all over the world. Tens of thousands of them gather together. The final Mass said at the end of this several days of this activity, they have symposiums, they have training courses, they have everything under the sun. There's a special Mass that is performed by the Pope. So, as soon as Pope Francis, but whomever is Pope at the time, will be here to deliver that. This, as I say, goes on only every 3 or 4 years, and it draws crowds, unbelievably large crowds. If you go to Wikipedia and you take a look at World Youth Day and see some of the crowds that have been attracted, the numbers they give will be for the final Mass where the Pope performs. At high as 5 million. But of course, that's in a major urban area. Here, we probably will have several 100,000 people. It's a little hard to believe, but who knows? It could even get higher. As we will be drawing people from Central America, from Colombia, from Peru, and Ecuador, and Bolivia, and so forth. This is not going to happen again in this area for quite a while, for probably several decades, as it moves around to other parts of the world. The fact that Panama City was awarded this honor is incredible. I mean, everybody was very, very excited to hear it, and it wasn't easy because, believe me, the people who put these on are extremely professional people. They have done them many times, and they sat down and they said, you've got to be prepared to do this, this, and this. We need to deal with this large number of people and so forth. And Panama City has been chosen. Its official has been for some months now. And there's a unit here that works morning, noon, and night to get ready for it. So this is going to be a huge event. So here we are celebrating our 500th anniversary of Panama City. We're seeing another big jump in traffic coming in from the opening of the second terminal. We've got the Metro line operating from the airport, and all that is going to be very, very useful in also celebrating this World Youth Day. So you put it all together, and we're going to get a lot of publicity. It's going to be positive publicity in 2019. But it's all based on a foundation. It's been laying here since, well, about 2003, 2004 it started, and it's been going nonstop ever since. And as I mentioned in an article I wrote for Barron's, which is a U.S. financial publication last August, I said that despite all the political differences here, we have many of them, each president has passed on to the president of another party, and sometimes someone who's not at all a personal friend, and yet they don't drop the ball when it comes to the economy. They keep it moving, and it's very critical to everybody here in Panama. They have their heads screwed on straight in terms of debt, things of this sort. They're absolutely determined to make this process continue. The money that's being borrowed has to be, of course, for the major projects, and going into really constructive projects that will bring in far more income than they cost to build. That's the critical thing with debt. If you've gotten it to create something that's going to make you even more money in the future, great. If you're just talking about presidential palaces or fancy sports terminals or roads to nowhere or whatever, then it's a waste of money. But in this instance, Panama is extremely good about this, and the money is focused on income-producing activity. So there we are, 2017, 18, and 19 in a matter of minutes. Again, it is not your immediate concern as to what happens here, but in terms of the society as a whole, it's very important that you live with people who, as I say, look ahead to the future because they know they have a future and they're building one for their children, and they're absolutely determined to do it. And they're doing it very well. And if I do say so myself, I think, quite frankly, they have a lot more to be proud of in this regard than many people in North America and Europe today. Blessings on you, because I'm one of you, and but I hate to say it, but I think I've seen more intelligent use of funds here than I have elsewhere. And it has nothing to do with party ideology or politics or anything of the sort. It's just, this is Panama, and this is what we do, and we're way far ahead of everybody else in the Latin American region. So, wish us well. And if you should come, you will see it happening right around you. You can't miss it. You'll see it right now, and you will continue to see it. And even though you get frustrated sometimes when traffic ties up because of some major construction going on, and when you live here, you will know there's a reason for that, and it's a good reason. So in any event, I wanted to bring you up to date on that. That's it. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you again.